Come on in. Remind me who I am. Hey, I'm gonna move this hanger. It's gonna drive me crazy. Remind me who I am. Hey, Kayla. Euler, Becky, Iowa, Oregon. How are y'all? You're in there. Hey, Peggy. Sarah, yo, the hanger every time. I know, right? It's always there. And I was like, you know what? It drives me crazy. Ham to you. Okay, I'm going to let people get in here real quick. I did not post the topic today, and I'm not going to do it as much just because I'm stewarding my time better during the day. And you guys know we're going to bring the info at lunch. And so, you know what? I'm going to post the topic as we get into them and everything. But today we're going to go over a super specific topic, and after last night here at Grapevine, I want to go over anxiety, and I want to teach you guys about this because I want you guys to have freedom. That's our deal. Oh, yay, you can see my face. Freedom. There we go. Hello. Oh, Karen, you're so welcome. I know, this is one of my favorite songs. Listen a second. Okay. Oh, if I'm your beloved, this is awesome. Hold on. I'm going to give you guys... 30 seconds to invite your friends. Swipe, click, share. Then I'll introduce myself to the people that are like, who the heck is this guy? Alyssa, Roxy, thank you for the share. Essentially Shandy, All Coasty, Chattapee, that's Peggy. Thanks for the share. Okay. All right. Let me turn this off. That way my green personalities don't get stressed out because there's just so much music and there's so much movement, and he's lip syncing on Periscope. What are we gonna do? I know. Sapphires unite, right? You're very welcome. You're very, very welcome. Okay, so here's what I want to do with the scope. It's a little bit more serious and stuff. Like this is, I know, and it was driving you crazy, right? And you're agreeing that I was like, man, the music's so loud. Why is he doing that? Hey, DC. Thanks for getting on. So for those of you who do not know who I am or why the heck I'm so loud, I am Dr. Jim Bob Hagerton. I'm a chiropractor from Texas. I finally got my stand back. I've been propping it up, so now my stand is back on the wall. I love it. So I feel better. I'm a chiropractor from Texas, and my passion is in function and in teaching you guys exactly the way that the body's created to work so that you can understand why it's not working well sometimes. And in understanding that, understand how to make it better. Like understand how to feed the body, make it better, how to help creation do what it's already created to do. Okay? And so what we're going to do is we're going to go over today, and I'm going to teach you about anxiety, and I'm going to teach you what happens in anxiety and exactly like how the body responds. And so that you know, I can't get this like exactly the way I want today. I don't know why. It bothers me. Oh, well, it's fine. So that you understand what's happening in the brain. Now, here's one thing that I wanted to teach you guys about this. Anxiety is not normal, but anxiety is a normal thing that will happen when the brain is not doing what it's created to do and things get out of balance. Okay, hear me on this. I'm going to say this again because I want you to understand that the body is going to create symptoms, and it's going to create, yes, Alyssa Francis is on here. Love her. Click her right there and follow her. She does great scopes on business and being a mompreneur. But it is. Anxiety is a huge issue for moms. All moms, I think. A lot of moms, because there's so many things. But it is not normal. It is common, but it is a normal progression of what will happen when the brain isn't working well and when things get out of balance. So I had a mom come in 2 days ago that had this, that was struggling with depression and struggling with anxiety, and she was really beating herself up for having it. And I told her, I said, look, I want you to understand first that the grace of this is what the brain will do if A plus B doesn't equal C. Okay, it's the brain's way of getting your attention. It's your mind's way of letting the pressure off. So here's what you got to understand. You're not broken. Gosh, this is where I need to start with this. I'm gonna drop a mic. What? For the mom on here, and Alyssa, since you said that, I already thought I was going that direction, so now I'm really going to hit it on there. For the mom that's on here that has got major anxiety about her kids, and major anxiety about her life, and major anxiety about her job, and major anxiety that she's just not enough. You're not broken, but you're not working perfect, so it can be made better. Okay? So I want to explain to you exactly, that's right. Like Shelby said, you're not alone, because I think the trap of anxiety is that no one understands and no one's in the same boat, and that you're broken and messed up. I think that's like 3 of the traps. Like no one gets it, no one understands your thing, no one's in your boat, and that you're messed up and you're broken. None of those are true. You're not broken. I'm going to show you how it happens and what the brain does and things that can trigger it. You're not alone in this. Everyone deals with anxiety to some point and gets anxious. It's when it's left there for a long period of time, it can create a disorder. And then it's easier for the brain to go that way. And I'm going to explain why. People do get you. People do understand you, but that's just the enemy's way to keep you isolated so that you don't get help. Okay, so you don't get help. But it's a huge thing that you can really help your body function and heal off of. Today I'm going to teach you about it. I'm going to give you some lifestyle things that you need to look at that are really key to make sure that your body is healing and it's got everything it needs in order to make things better. Because we're all about making things better, okay? Forgive the stroller in the background. It's for sale if someone wants it. My computer and everything, so let's do this. How is anxiety and mental illness? There's plenty to be anxious about in this world. It is true, but and I'll explain this. I'll talk about there's 4 different parts to anxiety and issues with it. So let's talk about it. Anxiety, how it happens, and let's just roll right in and let's get right to the meat. You ready? Okay. So the first thing is you got to understand that there's different types and levels of anxiety. Just being kind of like nervous about traffic going to the grocery store. You can be anxious but not have anxiety issues. Okay, like anxiety issues is a totally different set of symptoms that is a lot more intense, that is crippling, that is paralyzing, and that can cause a person that has it to make decisions that they would never make, or not make decisions that they should make to help themselves and their family, and can put them into dangerous situations, themselves and their kids and everybody else. Do you understand how that works? So it's just more intense. So one thing I want you to change, I want us all to change on our vocabulary, is I want you to stop saying, oh, I just had so much anxiety about that. I mean, like, they were out of my favorite rice at the grocery store and I got anxiety from it. You didn't get anxiety from it. It made you nervous, you were anxious, but you don't have a disorder. And so I want you to stop saying that. Like, I want you to, because it's insulting to someone who really has anxiety issues. Am I right or am I right? If you struggle with anxiety on here, know that I get you, I feel you, I love you, we're going to go through this. But it's insulting because they're like, you don't have anxiety. You went to the grocery store. The fact that you can get out of your house and go to the grocery store with other people around means that you do not have an anxiety disorder. It means that maybe it made you nervous. Maybe you were like, oh gosh, I didn't have my rice to fix in my Instant Pot. Do you see what I'm saying? But that is not an anxiety disorder. So stop saying that, okay? Because it's insulting. One person on our team, because we are educators in Young Living, one person on our team, she has anxiety to where she wouldn't leave the house to go even to church or anything for a long time. So she did different things with her diet and different lifestyle to help feed her body and make her body better. And I'm going to teach you that, but you got to understand it. Like, why would the brain go there? Like, why would the brain do that? Why would it create that scenario? It's not that it's broken, but there are specific things that can make it easier to get to that point. So there's 4 different types of anxiety. Okay, there's 4 different types of anxiety that I want you to understand. Different people get diagnosed with different ones. They're all in the same boat, but people will present differently depending on them. Okay, yeah, sometimes it is a specific fear. I'm going to show you that. So look at this. It is frustrating. I totally get that, but there are specific reasons for it. So I want to give you this. Panic disorder is one different type and diagnosis. Panic disorder. Yeah, me even talking about this is making some of you anxious. And I apologize about that, but I do want to teach you on it. Social anxiety disorder. This is having more of a problem in social settings and in public groups, things like that. I had a little girl who was 9. Here, this one right here, phobias. Right here, general anxiety disorder. We're mainly going to be talking about this, but general anxiety disorder encompasses so many of these things. Yes, it is very possible. Here's what's more normal. Medically, they want to diagnose you into one box. I'm going to give you proof on this. Yeah, great question on the OCD. Ask me that in a second. So medically, they want to put you in a box on this so they can treat the box. Like you have anxiety disorder, and so they're going to treat that. Or you have a phobia, and so they're going to treat that. It's all the same bag. It's all the same neurological imbalance and the same imbalance in the body. So if the body's already going that way, what you normally present with, and most of you guys, exactly right, and there's a lot of stuff to do with this, most of you guys, what happens is you get all of them. Like you have things that happen physically, you have phobias, there are social anxiety cues that will tie in, and there are also panic disorders that happen. There's certain situations, and it's all over the place. It's not the same, it's never trackable, and it's the thing hiding in the shadow, hiding behind the car that you don't know about that jumps on you when you least expect it. Okay? So what I want to do is I want to teach you how it gets to that point, because you just need to feed the brain. You got to understand what your triggers are, and if you can understand better what anxiety is, and you can understand more what your triggers are, then you can get a handle on and a game plan and a protocol to be able to keep yourself from getting to that point. Does that make sense? Does that make more sense for you guys and where we're going with it? Now, the OCD thing, the question on that, this is fantastic. Does it present as OCD? Yes, a lot of times, because OCD, obsessive compulsive, is a completely different neurological thing, but it can happen because of the body trying to grasp for straws of control and grasp for straws of consistency and grasp for order and foundation. Like the brain is trying to create order. It's trying to create consistency. It's trying to create something that is controllable. Okay? And so that right there is how it can snap back the other way. But let's get into, I want to talk about anxiety as a whole. All right. So one question that comes up, okay, EMDR. Well, EMDR, the response treatments, is that what you're talking about with EMDR, Alyssa? The emotional response? Oh, the light therapy. Oh, yeah. Okay. There's a lot of stuff with that. So we'll talk about that. You know, I should do a totally another thing on light therapy. The eye therapy, yeah. There's, oh my gosh. That's like a 4-hour scope, man. On the light therapy and stuff. We'll talk about that. But I'll do a whole other like light therapy scope and talk about, no, it's good, but you know how I am. And I'm like, Alyssa's going to get me off in like left field. We're never going to get to the topic. Yes, EMDR and light therapy is fantastic. Cold laser therapy is fantastic, but I'll do those. Eye light therapy is fantastic, but I'll do that in another scope just on that. And I'll try to do that next. That's a great idea. So I'll remember that. Remind me at the end. Okay, EFT is fantastic. Okay, panic disorder, panic attacks, same thing. So here's one question I get a lot on anxiety. Is it genetic? Is anxiety genetic? Is the psychological reason, the psychological issues, the psychological imbalance that I'm experiencing, is it genetic? I'm going to say yes and no. It's not genetic in the sense that because your mom had anxiety or your grandmother had anxiety disorder or your great-grandmother had panic attacks, it doesn't mean that you're going to have the same thing. Here's what happens genetically, though. Genetics gives you clues as to what your tendencies can be. What that means is that if you have a family line and a family history and a family propensity, is a good word, towards stress and anxiety, would it be easier for you to get into an anxiety disorder situation? Yes, it could be easier. Doesn't mean that you have to get it. It means that your brain could go that way easier. And so it's one thing that you have to pay attention to, and you have to make sure that you are shoring up for, you're defending for, you're supporting for, and all that. Does that make sense? So the genetic thing is, it can be a clue as you look back in your genetic line, in your lineage, and in your family of things that you could possibly deal with. Exactly, that's epigenetics. But it doesn't mean that you're going to get it. It means that, hey, grandma had anxiety. I want to make sure that I'm feeding my brain and feeding my nervous system because I don't want to get that. Does that make sense? So that's the answer to that. Now, I'm going to give you my top 5. There are a lot more than this. Please do not think that I'm belittling your thing. So Shelby, the rest of you guys on here that are on here that I know that are working through a lot of these issues, if I miss one on here, it doesn't mean that yours isn't important. Okay, so just hear that. There's just top 5 on here that are really huge, that come up a whole lot, that can lead your brain into an anxiety setup. All right, here we go. So, and these will encompass a lot of stuff. Hormone imbalance, okay? Hormone imbalance, trauma, whether it's sexual abuse, whether it's a major accident, whether it's emotional trauma, a death in the family, some kind of trauma. Diet can be a trigger, okay? Sleep issues can be a trigger. Yeah, see all the above? Brain imbalance is a huge trigger. All of these first 4 things will lead to brain imbalance that makes the anxiety worse. So this is really kind of the main issue that comes up that creates the scenario for it. PTSD is one of the most negatively impactful things that can happen to the brain because it is so traumatic, okay? So traumatic. Adrenal burnout will lead you to that quicker. That's a symptom of it, though. That's a total symptom. So again, hormone balance, trauma, diet, sleep issues, and brain imbalance. All right, I'm going to talk about 3. I'm going to talk about the hormone imbalance, I'm going to talk about dietary triggers, and I'm going to talk about the brain. I'm going to give you these 3 top ones. The other ones are important as well, but these are the ones that are going to help the most people. So let's dig in. Hormone link. The hormone link as it relates to anxiety and the way that the brain works is in estrogen. Now, we all need estrogen, guys and girls alike. Girls need more than guys. But if the estrogen gets way out of balance, if you have way too much estrogen, not enough of your progesterone, not enough testosterone, not enough DHEA, if the estrogen gets way out of balance, then that increases stress inside your nervous system because estrogen has more receptors on the right side of the brain. Okay? I'm going to go slow on this a second. I want you to get this. This may be a little bit longer scope because I don't want to rush on this. The brain is split into 2 sides. The right side of the brain has more receptors for estrogen. The left side of the brain has more receptors for progesterone and testosterone. It means that when those hormones fire, then they fire different pathways and neurological pathways in the brain. Okay? So the right side of the brain is the side of the brain that deals with big picture thinking, emotion, being empathetic, color, but it also is the side of the brain that deals with stress. It deals with you handling stress. It's the side of the brain that fires a part of the nervous system, we'll talk about in a second again, called, write this down, your sympathetic nervous system, your fight or flight nervous system. So if that side of the brain gets fired more than it should because of a hormone imbalance, because of situation, then you can automatically fire the sympathetics or fire your fight or flight system because of a hormonal imbalance. You see what I'm saying? So like when someone comes in, anxiety isn't this button you turn off, okay? Like anxiety isn't this, oh, well, just stop stressing out. You're just stressing out. Just stop that. Stop being so stressed out. And you should just stop. Stop being anxious. Okay. You know, like, okay, let me stop that. Let me stop the irrational fears in my head that neurologically have been planted in my brain so deep that they are not illogical anymore. They're logical and they're truth because my brain thinks they're true. I'm just going to stop that when it's been happening for 15 years. If you go to a doctor and they tell you just to get over it and to stop stressing out, go to a new doctor. Someone else will take your money to help you. If they tell you that it's genetic, get the heck out. If they tell you that it's just because you're fat and out of shape, get out. Go somewhere else, okay? All right. So anxiety encompasses so many more things. So when someone comes in and if a husband says that, Gigi, if a husband says that, okay, let me get through the topic because that's going to make me mad. So, because if a husband says that, then he's not loving you like you're supposed to be loved. And it's not true. He doesn't mean it. He just doesn't understand it. He doesn't mean that for you. He just doesn't get what's happening. And so he doesn't know how to fix you. Okay, he doesn't know how to fix the situation. And it upsets him that he can't. He doesn't mean it that way, but it's not true. Okay? So, we're going to talk about that. I'll talk about communicating on it. But anxiety encompasses so many things. So you have to take each one into account so that you can help balance the body out. Otherwise, it's going to keep going. So estrogen going up, stress going up, right brain activity goes crazy, and then you can build up anxiety easier. A lot of people don't get it. You're exactly right. Most people don't get it. And I get that because we help patients with this in the office a lot because we do so much functional neurology. Okay, this is the thing. So when I say I get you, I hear you, I feel you, I really do because I see this so much. I see this with our pregnant moms. I see this postpartum so much. And so I see so many things that come up with this. So let's keep going. All right, the second trigger that is huge, but this is one of the hardest ones to change because it's also the thing that keeps you sane. The second trigger is diet. So let me explain why I said it's one of the biggest things to help, but also the thing that helps, that hurts you the most. Like dietary triggers are things that will throw you off, throw you into the pit quicker, but the things that you're eating are helping you balance your neurotransmitters and they help you feel better for a second. So the junk food or the things that you want to eat that aren't good for you, there's a reason why you crave them. When you stress out and you get into an anxiety-centered mode, your body wants fats and carbs. Your body wants crappy sugars and nasty fats. You want fried food, you want chips and candy or whatever. Like you want ice cream, you want chocolate because two reasons. It's emotionally stabilizing because you have a good memory tied to that food. Salt's because of your adrenal glands, because you have a memory tied to the food. The second thing is it's quicker to break down because it's junk food. It's not real. It breaks down quickly. And when you add something into the gut, your stomach produces serotonin. Your stomach produces neurotransmitters. And for that brief period of time, for that little bit of a jolt, you go, oh my gosh, and then once that imbalance sits in there, when you get a quick high, it's exactly right, and food becomes a drug. And before you know it, you've created an addiction to the food because you're using the food to fill a void that your brain needs, to fill a void that your spirit needs, that your emotions need, that your heart needs, and you're trying to feed your brain with food, creating more of an imbalance in the hormones and creating a longer lasting problem. Okay? So here's some things that are linked to making your anxiety worse, but don't think that I think that it's an easy change. This is a trigger, but triggers are things that create tons of issues, and it's not easy to fix, so don't think I'm saying to just go ahead and take this out. And I'm going to show you how this works, okay? Here we go. So here's a couple of big triggers, okay? Increasing sugar increases stress and inflammation, okay? It's just a fact. So the more sugar that goes into your body, the more you're increasing stress and inflammation in the body. And if you have a protein deficiency, if you are not getting enough protein, okay? If you're not getting enough protein, then on the protein side, you're not getting enough sugar, and you won't build up neurotransmitters the way that you should. Okay? Now, let me explain why I do not want you to, and I do not agree with any doctor that tells you to just take out all the bad. You shouldn't eat those Snicker bars ever again. How dare you have Oreos? How dare you eat your mom's pound cake? You have anxiety. You should stop all that right now. Okay? Watch. If someone's dealing with a really bad anxiety disorder, they are having an issue with controlling things in their life, period. Like things are out of control, neurologically, hormonally, okay? And so if I come in, two things happen. One, if I come in and I say, take that away, you shouldn't eat that, no, and I take something from you, now I'm a threat to you as a doctor. And as the person trying to help you, I'm threatening what is stable for you, and I can make your anxiety worse. I mentally can make your anxiety worse because I took away a food, even if the food is part of the problem. The other thing that can happen is if I take away a food, even if the food is bad. Some of the parents on this scope right now, some of the moms and parents are doing this to your kids, and it's the reason your teenagers are having worse anxiety and you can't figure out why, and they're either going to street drugs, that happens, or they're sneaking food and they're sneaking stuff out the back door because they're using the food to balance their brain because of their anxiety. And you came in and you took all this stuff away from them really quick. The sugar is balancing their neurotransmitters even if the long term it's making it worse. What you have to do is you have to feed good in for a period of time before you take bad out so that you can give the body what's normal and give the body better before you start taking things out. So it's a transition. Does that make sense? It's a transition. hear me on this when I say, when you're helping someone with anxiety, and you're really helping someone with the imbalance in the neurological condition with this, go slow. Please, I'm going to drop a mic on this. If you could do anything, please don't rip things out of their hand. Please don't berate them for drinking a triple venti, frappuccino with extra caramel sauce. Do not rip that out of their hands, because that may be the one thing that's helping them feel human. That one drink may be the one thing that's helping them feel normal, that's helping them feel like a real human being, and you take it away, and now you've wrecked their world. You've thrown a rock into their glass house, and now we've got another problem. It may be the one thing that's keeping them alive. It's very true. Okay? So just go slow. Don't be flippant. Don't think you understand. Because even though I understand from my patient's point of view and everything, even I, doing all the things I can and all the different stuff that I do with patients, I don't understand in the nth degree, right? I totally recommend counseling and therapy, absolutely, to be able to wrap your brain around where you're at so you know where you need to go. Absolutely. All right, so let's talk about the last thing. Let's talk about the brain balancing. And I want you to understand this a little bit. I don't want to go in super depth because I know we've already gone a little over 30 minutes. So less than 10 minutes left. That way I can get my lunch and get back to patients, get ready. All right, you ready? So here, let's talk about the brain balance. Here's what happens with anxiety neurologically, and this is the main thing. Ready? I'll talk about how to balance the brain later, and I've got some other scopes on this I'm going to teach you. But I'm going to show you this. PTSD will create this, absolutely. PTSD is its whole other thing. It's a totally more intense situation, so we can talk about that another time. All right, so the brain balance. Anxiety is when you have an overactive right brain creating sympathetic dominance. Remember that word. Take a picture of this, write it down. Overactive right brain creating a sympathetic dominance. And this can happen with any personality type. It can happen with men. It can happen with women. It's not specific only to women, just because, typically women are more right brain dominant, usually. Not all the time, but usually. But if the right side of the brain gets overactive because you are getting more stress, because you're eating more sugar, because you have too much estrogen, because your adrenal glands are crashing, because you're cooking in plastics, because you're exposed to environmental estrogen compounds, because all these things. Because you are in a situation where emotionally you're being beat down emotionally and whatever it is. And the right brain gets more and more and more and more and more, then it's going to create a situation where that sympathetic nervous system is going to go through the roof and you're going to have symptoms. What's my take on taking medications? That's a really great question. Medications aren't going to fix the problem, but they could save your life. So, the thing about it is it depends on the person. And if the situation is dangerous enough that the anxiety is at an issue point where there is a issue with danger to themselves or to a family member, that is why medication was created, and medication could be life-changing for them or their family. And so I am totally for saving a life. I'm not for creating a drug addict. So the point should be get them stable, figure out the problem, get them stable, feed their body. Are we on board with that? Do you understand that? I hope that answers that question. So, which leads into the next thing. What do we do? So what do you do lifestyle-wise to start feeding the body? What do you do? Okay? It's true, Shelby, that can happen too. There is a give and take. There is side effects. And so, you know what I mean? It just depends. It totally depends on it's an individual situation that totally is figured out by therapy and talking to a doctor or professional or somebody that does functional work. Okay? All right, so I'm going to give you little steps to do on each one. We're not going to get into these in depth because I'm going to do other videos on this for you. But one of the things you have to do to help your body heal is to balance your hormones. You have to help balance your hormones. That's going to be a video I talk about later on. You got to understand about how to get your estrogen levels down so that your hormones aren't completely off base. That's huge. We'll talk about that later. One thing I'll talk about a little bit more in depth is diet. Okay? Diet. Becca, we're going to talk about that in a little bit now, and then I'm going to do a full video on the brain balancing and remodeling in a little bit. So the diet, here's some easy steps, simple steps, not easy, Simple steps, okay? Simple steps to look at on this. Blood test could check that, so could saliva and stuff, Junia. Increase your protein. That will balance your blood sugar and help with neurotransmitters. Increase your fermented foods like sauerkraut, fermented pickles, kimchi, kombucha, because the probiotics help to balance your gut. Increase water. Dehydration leads to a host of issues. Decrease sugar as much as possible. Eat consistently. You want to make sure you're balancing your blood sugar out, because the more you can balance your blood sugar, the more you can support your adrenal glands. And that will help you handle stress in the moment so it doesn't build up into neurological imbalance. And the third one, brain balance. You want to increase left brain activity. That means exercising, easy stuff, walking, doing marching in place, nothing major, okay? Journaling. Chiropractic, like doing specific things to balance the brain. We do cold laser therapy and other stuff, but there's specific little exercises to do to feed the left side of the brain. Brain balancing is key because it's the thing that's going to keep the changes there long term. Now, the last thing I'll mention on this, and I know this is kind of like opening up a lot of questions, and it's opening up a lot of doors on you, and your brain's like, what the what? We'll talk about more of this. So just stick with baby steps. Don't overwhelm yourself, okay? And then we'll get into more things, okay? So the brain balancing side, the thing you need to remember, and the thing I want you to think about and remember off of today, is a term called neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity means the more you do a thing, the better you get at the thing neurologically, which means the more you fire a nerve, the better that nerve gets, the thicker it gets, the bigger it gets, and the more it fires that pathway for you automatically. So the more you fire the nerve towards anxiety and anxiousness and fear or things like that, because it either gets fired for you or you keep firing it, it will make that brain pathway stronger and you'll go more towards that way. Now, the other thing is true. The more you fire a pathway correctly and you feed it with life, right, and you give it life and you give it function, that part of the pathway will function better. So I'm going to teach you more on that because it's time I got back to redoing the hormone imbalance, redoing the anxiety scopes, all that, because we had to redo them. So we're going to get to that. But that's a good starting point. But again, the last thing I want you to hear, please hear me on this, as I let you guys go, because I've gone a little bit longer on this than I really wanted. That's okay, though, because it's good information you need to hear. The thing I want you to hear, you're loved, you are perfect, you were chosen by the Father for good works, you are not broken, it can be healed, because your body is amazing. That's what I want you to hear. I want you to hear that you're not broken. That's just what I want you to hear, that you're not broken. That is the thing for you. For some of you guys on here, the thing that you need to hear is you are not broken. Okay? Your brain is doing something specifically to adapt to stressors. Here's my website, family-wellness.com. Check us out on there. I do phone consults. I would love to help you. I mean, this isn't for that, but I know that sometimes it's hard to get people to help you. I'll totally help you with that. Call the office. All the videos will go up on YouTube. I know I'm a little behind on that, but I'm looking up. I'm getting those all put on for you. But YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Get someone to help you, whether it's me or someone else, and let's get better together. All right, praying for you guys. Remember, neurology is simple. Emotional stuff, psychological stuff is simple the way it's made, but it's not easy to fix it. So, dig in, keep working at it, and we'll get through it. You guys are fantastic. Have a great rest of your day. Take care.